It's 5:30 and I'll go ahead and call the Health, Safety, and Sanitation Committee meeting to order. What we have on the agenda tonight is an update for 2022 from the police, fire, and sanitation. And we're going to ask you, each of you to limit it to 10 minutes. And Mr. Piccoli, I'll start with you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Simpson. So our sanitation department is unique, as council members know. We currently have 11 MEOs that are filled with one vacancy. We were grateful that the council was gracious enough to allow us to have a 12th. We had staffing issues. We've been running with 29-hour employees for over 10 years now with respect to the part-time workers. And that, of course, becomes challenging, especially with today's labor field. So with respect to sanitation, we pick up from 7,570 homes. Those are the residential customers, and we have about 1,114 commercial units. 2021, we picked up 25,000 tons. Respectively, in 2019, it was 27,000 tons. 2020, it was 25,000. So it's we're seeing reduction with respect to the amount. And out of the 25,000, about 13,000 was residential, and commercial was 12,043. So it's almost split evenly with respect to residential and commercial. All the material does go to CPF, most of it, transported by our crews. This year we're at $53 a ton. We've seen that going up. We were expecting a reduction. We have heard there was possibly going to be a reduction. Unfortunately, we're on pace to go up $1 a ton, I believe, for the next ensuing 4 years, capped at $59 a ton in 2028. With recycling, we do have a cardboard recycling route. In 2021, we picked up 253 tons. 2020, it was 217. That's been somewhat of an increase. Food waste diversion, that's the material that comes from Sandridge. Our guys will take it to wherever the customer prefers. So in this case, we took 1,200 tons of organic waste to the anaerobic digester, and then another 1,000 tons over to Congress Lake Farms, and that's in Portage County. Excuse me. See, our crews also delivered 71 roll-off containers over the year. We currently rent out 447 front-load containers, and then we also service those containers 1 to 6 times per week throughout the year. We are going to initiate our yard waste program. That starts next Monday, a week from today. That's gone very well over the last 4 years. Actually, this is our 5th year. Started in 2017. The first year, we picked up 155 tons. We're now at 400 tons of yard waste. And we do pay $22 a ton for that disposal. When we started out in 2017, it was free for the first 3 years. And then folks caught on. They could turn that around, turn it into compost mulch, and we end up being charged. So it's not the $53, but it's still a cost. That program costs the city sanitation department approximately $70,000 to run, and currently we do not charge for that service. Disposal isn't that much. It's about $8,400. The cost is mainly with the labor. It's labor intensive, as you know, and with trucks, well, it's challenging with the fuel. We're looking at about $6 gallons per mile when those trucks run. Not very efficient. Again, to date, we've not charged for those services, and perhaps before we do, we're thinking that maybe we could set up a drop-off location. I talked a little bit with the mayor about it. We were thinking maybe like the weigh station or the city garage. We would have a roll-off container, if you will, and then folks could come and drop and dispose of their material, and maybe the oversight would be some of our crew being there, or maybe a surveillance camera, and that would hopefully keep contamination from being entered into the roll-off containers. And it's a huge benefit to have the in-house sanitation department. We have flooding issues, household material we pick up at no charge. It's the control factor of being able to send guys out and do the things they do, as council well knows, they take care of our elderly and our disabled, and just, they do a phenomenal job day in and day out.
Yeah.
So that's all I have. We're looking at maybe some other recycling programs, but until the end market turns around, we're not going to really be able to do a whole lot at this point in time is the unfortunate part.
I know we've discussed in the past, not so much the yard waste, but I think, the idea that you have as a central drop-off, I think would save some time and money. But also the leaf program, we don't charge for that either.
Correct.
And at some point in time, we may have to look at, because that's getting more expensive every year also, so.
Absolutely, and our goal is to take a lot of the weight out, so the yard waste is a lot of the heavy volume materials, so the more we can increase that program, it lessens what goes to the landfill
Sure.
and what we end up paying going to the CPF, so
Right.
that's ultimately our goal that we're working toward.
Well, thank you very much. Rich, do you have any questions?
No.
And again, I just, we were talking, the sanitation employees, they've got probably one of the hardest jobs that any of the city's employees has as far as physically. And they always are very kind, courteous to all the customers. I've never heard a complaint. My 19 years on console, I've never had a complaint about the sanitation workers, and that says a lot, I think, for the gentlemen that do that, so.
Well, we appreciate it. If I may, one more thing, Mr. Simpson, it brings up during the winter how hard they work. So I had a call during the storms. We had 2 storms between Martin Luther King and then shortly after. So I got a call from a neighboring city and then one that was in Cuyahoga County asking what did we do during the storm. I didn't quite understand the question. I said we plowed. And then, no, your sanitation department, because they know we have in-house. And I told them we ran.
Right.
And they were like, what do you mean you ran? We operated. Well, they didn't. They contract out, and they had to have their folks, their residents, had to bring their trash back up to their house, and then it was a week to 2 weeks later, set it back out when the contractor could come back out. And what held us up, the mayor actually helped out with, we were running and we couldn't dispose of our trash because CPF closed. So the mayor was handling that and got on the phone with the commissioners and got that worked out.
Good.
They opened and we were able to
Right.
dispose of our trash.
Yeah, it's a service, I'm sure, but there's no complaints. It's, people are, they may not be as complimentary as they should be, when they're satisfied with something, but no complaints speaks volumes of how they like the service and the competency of the employees that you have.
Mr.
Thank you,
Simpson.
Mr. Piccoli.
If Mr. Simpson, if I could just mention one thing.
Sure.
So a couple of those days, when it was really bad and the other companies closed, I asked Nino to actually check with the staff, and would they rather take the 5-7 degree below zero day off and then fill it with a Saturday or whatever, and they said, we're hired to work outside, we know it's going to be cold outside, we're good.
We're dressed for it,
And,
yeah.
yep, so it just an overall good attitude.
Yeah, they do. I appreciate that. Chief Walters, you're up.
Thank you, Mr. Simpson. In general, things are going really well at the fire department. There's a number of projects going on. I'll just hit a couple of the highlights here. As you might remember, we added the first shift staffing for the weekends last year. That's gone really well, and a future goal would be to look at adding the second shift to the weekends as well, using a similar model, although we have to do some of the cost calculations for that yet. In an effort to make sure that we have enough staffing firefighters to fill those added shifts, we are getting ready to announce a hiring event for part-time firefighters. We're probably looking to bring on 4 to 6 if we're so lucky. We do recognize it's difficult for everyone to get help these days. And then a couple of the larger projects that we have going on, the SCBAs or the air packs that the firemen wear, ours are at end of life. Actually, March marked 20 years for those. So we can't get them tested anymore, the annual testing that they have to have. And we have experienced a number of failures, and some of those have been on the fire ground, which could be a serious safety issue. So at the end of last year, we wrote our own grant for the Assistance to Firefighter Grant. That is a FEMA grant. We are hopeful that we'll get that. If not, we were fortunate enough to get potentially backup funding through the American Rescue Plan funds. Barb DeJure ran that through legal, and that purchase would qualify. But we are in pretty good standing for that grant. We're hopeful of that and should find out in the next 30 to 60 days. And then the very last thing that I have for you for this tonight is on council tonight we'll be asking for $30,000 to upgrade the fire department's voice paging system. So if you remember back in 2019, dispatch, the police, fire, and LST all upgraded the radio system to a digital platform, current technology, to pair with the Harris system that's in our area here. That was an expensive venture for all of those departments, fire included. So one of the things that would have need to happen for fire was the replacement of all of the individual firemen's pagers that they carry with them. And in order to save that cost, they did a temporary patch, if you will, and that system is failing. It's begun to fail. We've had two recent failures in that system, so we need to get it replaced, which will bring that last piece of the puzzle up to the current technology. So we'll be
Thank you. I
asking.
do have a question about that. Does this new digital system, and the only reason I'm asking this question because we were at a restaurant back during the holidays, and at the next table, this gentleman's pager went off, and it was kind of loud. And he goes, well, he said, I can't go on that because I've already had 2 drinks. And I said, oh, you're a police officer or a firefighter? He said, I'm a firefighter. And he showed me his pager. He said, we just got these, and I can't remember if they were from Cuyahoga Falls or Copley. It was a C place. And I didn't have a drink, but it was in Summit County. But their pager actually showed that it was a call for smoke in a residence. And the pager he showed me, it actually gave directions to the residents. And this particular house, they had an invalid inside, and it said, I can't remember if it was the southeast or northwest corner bedroom is where they sleep. And he says, oh, no, is that on every fire? He goes, oh, yeah. He says, they're able to, the dispatch is able to give us the directions, the quickest route, and it's from the fire station, obviously, to that residence, and if there's anything they need to know about the resident. Will you have that capability with this new system?
So I can't speak to that feature in particular, but I would imagine if there is only one manufacturer for this pager, so if he had that, that's probably the same one that we're getting.
Oh, okay.
Because there isn't another manufacturer that does that.
And I know that would have, a lot to do with the dispatching too, as far as if there's enough dispatchers to be able to enter that information, or if that information automatically comes up for that particular address, I don't know.
Yeah, so honestly, this pager will have a ton of features that we could look at how we could benefit from. But right now, I just need to make sure that if there's a fire, my firemen know about it and they get out of bed and come. And right now, we need to make that happen with these new pagers. So,
Okay.
yeah, we'll find out all about those features that are available.
Okay.
The guy that's coming out the program. So,
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that a long time ago, and until
Yeah.
you mentioned the new pagers,
well, once we get them, I'll show them to you.
Okay. Mayor?
I was just going to mention that the problem with the current one is you don't know it's not working until it doesn't work.
Right.
So what we've done in the interim is each shift now, they're doing a test like we used to do
Okay.
back in the day. So at least then we're getting regular checks. We don't go 24 hours or 48 hours and find out the thing's been down.
Right.
It'd be nice if it sent somebody an alarm to tell us we have to go over and reboot it or get it
Right.
started again, but it simply doesn't have that capability, so.
Thank you. Reggie, do you have any?
Nope, sounds like it's extremely important and needed for our community. Thank you.
Thanks, Chief. Chief Kinney?
Hi, thank you for having me here. I'm happy to share the update with the police department. I can start with personnel right now. We are currently down 6 officers in the police department. We have 4 vacancies, and we have 2 officers who, one is out on extended sick leave and another one is deployed overseas for the military. So we're working through that process. The patrol test, they just finished their civil service test as well as the physical agility test. So we will begin interviews once we get a certified list from the Civil Service Commission. We also have vacancies in dispatch. We just finished that testing process and interviewed some of the potential candidates from the certified list we got from Civil Service. We did give 3 conditional offers to 3 dispatchers, so we're working them through the vetting process, the background process, psychological, the polygraph, and we're hopeful that they'll start here in the next couple of weeks.
Good.
We also have some promotions on the horizon with the retirement of Lieutenant Bert Bickler. That opened up a position in the lieutenant spot as well as in the sergeant spot once we make a promotion in the lieutenant's position. So both those testing processes are running parallel. They're in process. I hope to have both those positions filled within the next 2 months. I gave you a copy of our year-end report. You can
Yes.
take a look at that at your leisure. Really, the only thing notable is our activity is still down because of the COVID times. I anticipate that activity increasing in this calendar year 2022. Some upcoming projects that we have, if you recall, the flock cameras that got approved several months ago. We had an issue with First Energy and being able to mount those on the pole. First Energy had a bunch of hoops and fees that they wanted to charge us to be able to hang those on their poles. So we went with the solar option, and those should be deployed here in June is their estimated time for those LPRs to go up. It's still a little tough to get cars. The 3 cars that were approved at the beginning of the year that we just got in, so they're getting upfitted right now. They should be on the road here in the next month once those are complete. A couple of the other projects that are going to be coming up on finance tonight, we're going to be asking to upgrade the rest of our tasers. We've been incrementally replacing our tasers with the newer technology tasers. However, the ones that we have now are currently end of life, and we need to upgrade them as quickly as we can so that they're usable and effective. So that's on the agenda tonight for finance. Another project we'd like to complete in this year is the patrol rifles and all the cars. They're 10+ years old, so it's time that those get phased out and replaced. So that's a project that we're currently researching so that we can get those replaced and upgraded. And in communications, the radio consoles, we are still currently operating on RF. It's radio frequency on the digital system. We need to upgrade our consoles. Our consoles are 20 years old, close to 20 years old. They're end of life as well. We can't get parts for them anymore. And we need to upgrade 2 consoles that plug directly into the core. It's a digital system and everything's connected through wires now. And the core is actually up in Parma, so we would need to create a fiber connection between our communications room, this building, and Parma's radio bunker. And that's a project that's coming up. We've been saving up for that over the past couple of years, so we have the funds in place. We just need to get the quotes and get started on the project, bring it to council for your consideration.
Good.
That's all I have. You have any questions?
No, I do have a question. Reg, I'm going to ask you if you have any questions.
Nope.
Well, as
Soaking it in.
I've just got a couple questions for all of you. First of all, Chief Walters and Chief Kinney, again, I can't think of ever receiving an email or a phone call on a complaint of an officer on the police department or a member of the fire department, firefighter on the fire department. And again, people, if they do have a concern, they're usually more apt to let us know about that than if they're going to have a compliment. So personally, not hearing, and over the years, and like I said, I've been on almost 19 years now, I think that speaks volumes again for both your departments. I mentioned that about Mr. Picoli's department, but your departments are the same. And I know you've got younger people, older people, the same as in the service department. And the model that you gentlemen are setting for the people to work under you obviously is working. So congratulations on that. The question I have for all three of you, we have a few minutes left. I know everybody is hiring. I mean, if you drive down Lake Road, all the businesses there have help wanted signs out. Maybe not as many now as they did a couple months ago, but there's still several. Restaurants, groceries, everybody. I know, Mr. Picoli, we talked a couple months ago that, our seasonal employees, they're having a hard time, getting people to fill those spots. And Chief Walters, you just mentioned that you're hoping to put 4 to 6 people on the department, and Chief Kinney, the same with you. Are you finding it hard to get applicants, and, what's your thoughts on that? I don't know what the reason is, but.
Yeah, I'll go first because we probably have the biggest discrepancy in testing over the years. We used to have hundreds of people come out and take our tests. This last test, we barely had 30. And out of those 30, our best hope of viable candidates on a certified list will be 13. So that's.
And it's not to pay. I mean, obviously, you can go to Chick-fil-A, I think now starts out at, between $16 and $18 an hour, but overall, I don't think any of your departments, it's the pay that's concerned. I don't know what the answer is for.
It's just a challenging work climate, and we also have the civil service process that really takes a substantial amount of time to get through, and most of the departments around us are hiring directly in through lateral transfers.
Oh, okay.
So they're skipping basically the entire civil service process.
Right.
They're taking a look at an application, and within a couple weeks, they can say, okay, let's get you started.
Oh.
We can't do that. It's a
Right.
several month-long process for
Right.
us because of not using the lateral process.
Well, and it protects your department and the city by doing that too, so. And the individuals. I mean, it's going to let them know the reason why that they may not be qualified, so.
Mr. Simpson? I do have a question on that. With regard to doing the laterals, what's preventing the city of Medina from using lateral transfers?
Well, I can't preempt what civil services ruling is. We've brought it to them. Initially, they were resistant to it. They may have softened that stance. We're in a research phase at this point with it.
If I may. Sure. So we're obligated to follow the Ohio Revised Code, which has a certain amount of guidelines and procedures. We can't deviate from that, but we can also have more restrictive rules, which is what we currently have. But because there are rules, we can also eliminate them. However, the feeling I've gotten from the Civil Service Commission is they would still like to be a part of the process, as opposed to, well, I'll just be out with it. Some agencies are letting them send a resume or an application and hiring them, just off of that. No testing, no background. Well, I shouldn't say no background, but not the type of things that we're doing with Pradco for psychological and all those other things. And that makes us a little bit nervous, that you don't want to short circuit it so much that you end up with a liability issue. The second thing is we don't want to give the impression of the Civil Service Commission that we have them in place, but we're not using them. So we were waiting on, Mr. Huber wasn't here last week. He was off on vacation. So the chief and I are going to sit down with him, and Chief Kinney and his staff are also going to do a broader research and kind of create a spreadsheet of what different cities are doing. I will tell you, it's not unheard of to have a city not follow regulations that are established by law, and that doesn't make it right. It's just they've chosen not to. So we just got to make sure we're not getting ourselves into a problem with it.
Okay, all right.
I have one thing to add, just as a follow-up point. Under no circumstances would we ever deviate or lessen our vetting process in the police department, even if the civil service process was streamlined, that vetting, the polygraph, the psychological, the background, that would happen regardless. We would never not do that.
So if a seasoned officer from Brunswick would come down, they would follow the same process, just wouldn't have to take the civil service test? That's a question.
Yes, that officer, yes, if we do a lateral in that sense, the officer would come in, he'd be hired based off an application. However, he would still receive the exact same vetting that a brand-new officer would receive with no experience.
Okay, all right.
Now, out of fairness, when we talked with Mr. Huber about this in the first place, he was comfortable with lateral entries coming in at a higher pay, but not eliminating any of the steps to get there. So they still had to take the civil service test, they still had to go through the interview, everything else. Now, in light of what we're seeing, however, of people being hired out from under us because of the time and methodology of our processes versus theirs, that was a conversation we didn't have the first time, and now we're seeing it routinely. So we're likely, once we get the research done, having another conversation with Greg and seeing what can we do legally and what can't we do.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Denny.
Chief Walters, are you noticing, we've got like 4 minutes before we have to close this out, but.
Yeah, so it's easy for me because we're not there yet. We're just releasing the announcement this week.
Okay.
We are anticipating some struggles, so in an effort to help with that, we're doing a bit of a word of mouth sort of thing. What we found in more recent years is that the full-time firefighters in other areas tend to be able to give our department a bit more because they have that 48 hours off where they're in town, they're able to staff, they're able to make after-hours calls. So we've had some of our guys reaching out to people they know and spreading some word of mouth preemptively prior to the announcement. So hopefully in a couple of weeks I'll have really good news about that, but right now I don't know just yet.
Okay. Mr. Pacoli?
Thank you. So we're seeing some struggles, but on a happy note, we had a gentleman who was here part-time union, left to go to a local government agency for full-time because he was getting a little impatient. Well, he's been there for 4 years. Well, because we pay well, or fair, I should say, on the high end as a driver, he's willing to come back. He's starting Monday part-time, giving up a full-time status position, knowing that the end result here will benefit him in the long run because he has a CDL. So I guess my point is saying that when we're fair like we are with our union and pay decent, you attract good folks, and that's what we saw with this transition. So, but with the laborers, it's still been a little bit difficult with the finding people to come in and labor.
You're talking about like seasonals?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Well, gentlemen, thank you very much. Anything else from the audience? Any questions, comments? Reg?
No, thank you.
Okay. With that, I thank you very much, and we'll adjourn this finance, or Health and Safety and Sanitation meeting, go into finance. Thank you.